So, man, you got a really nice garden. They got a really nice garden here. Man, I mean, I had a hard enough time. We have just a couple tomato plants. And
you have your own garden then.
I mean, a couple tomato plants, and somebody came over, like some animal came over and ate when it was just, I mean, it was teeny tiny. And so, yeah.
Maybe it was a squirrel. They eat our flowers all the time.
Yeah. It's probably was a squirrel. Okay, so 1 second here. To the wall? Okay. How's that? Okay. So you can just look at me, and again, it'll be a minute 30 story, so it'll be pretty short. But first thing I want to do is ask you for it's the hardest question, your first name, last name, and spell it for me as well.
Okay. Denita Ball, B-A-L-L.
Okay. And your title in the sheriff's office is?
Chief Deputy.
Okay. So first thing is we have seen the crime rates going up. We know the homicide rates have reached record highs in the city of Milwaukee, for example. What will you do differently as sheriff to fight crime in this county?
Well, as you stated, as we were looking at crime, it is through the roof. And so my plan, there's 4 pillars to the plan. The first is that we leverage technology, because we know that there are an infinite number of people who are committing most of the crime. Also, what we would do is we would coordinate, communicate, and share data so that as we are mobilizing our forces, we can better address the issues that are occurring. And then also, we're going to strengthen our law enforcement partners, because as I stated before, the resources that we have are very finite. And so we want to make sure that we're able to multiply our force by leveraging them and working with the other municipalities. And then the 4th way is by building community partnerships. And it's all hands on deck because of the level of crime that we're seeing. And so we need to take a holistic approach. And I believe that if we do that, we will be able to succeed and reduce crime.
One of the things that you'll be doing as sheriff is negotiating the budget with the county board. And you know, some of those meetings have been pretty intense and fighting back and forth over the budget. Some members want to see that budget cut, and they want to see some of your funding go to other services in the community, maybe, for example, poverty reduction or mental health counseling or education, they say would help cut crime. What do you say? Would you support taking some of the sheriff's office budget and moving it, reallocating it to community resources?
I understand the position that others are taking. Those different departments and areas are very important as well. But if we don't get crime under control, then we're not going to be able to enjoy the parks, you know, or who's going to respond to a mental health crisis. So I wouldn't be in favor of reallocating resources with crime being through the roof. I think that we need to use every available resource that we have to tackle the crime that is currently occurring.
As the sheriff, you'll oversee a budget of about $50 million. You'll have, I believe, 600 employees. But staffing is an issue. We know staffing is hard for a lot of businesses out in the private sector. What are you going to do to bring more people on board? Because I know there's a lot of vacancies right now in the sheriff's office as well as the jail. So what could you do to improve staffing for the office?
So the 600 employees that you're referring to is the authorized strength. And as you stated, our staffing shortage is at a all-time low, especially as it relates to our corrections position. So I will continue to lobby for more pay for our corrections officers. I believe in my heart that they should have a competitive wage. What has been done recently has helped, but we also need to continue moving forward. Also, the way we recruit, who we recruit, how we recruit, and where we recruit is very important as well. And so, as you have probably noticed, we've been doing more recruitments and more job fairs so that we can ensure that we do fill those positions, because our staffing shortage is drives a lot of the other areas that we see where there's a deficiency.
Okay. One of the things that we saw in recent weeks in the jail was the suicide. There was one suicide last year. Generally, what would you do to keep the inmates safe and to prevent suicides moving forward?
Well, we have to make sure that when people are coming in, when persons in our care come into the jail, that they know that this is not the end all, that there is hope, and work with them regarding suicide prevention. We do have things in place. We are currently having a suicide barrier put up so that you know, those who are contemplating suicide does not jump over the barrier, and so it's to prevent that. We are already working with our mental health staff, and oftentimes they are seen anywhere from 2 to 3 times a day to several times a week. And so those things are already in place, but we just have to make sure that we evaluate what we're doing now to see if there's something that we can do better.
And when we're talking about staffing, for example, in the jail, do you think that staffing in the jail has resulted in this particular, the most recent case in June with that suicide? Is that something that maybe impacted that particular case, that from your perspective?
Well, from my perspective, no, but I don't want to comment on that. That's an open investigation. That person came into our jail, as I believe the investigation will bear out, and our staffing level did not have a bearing in my mind and what I've seen on that.
Okay. One of the things that you'll be doing as the sheriff is community relations, being the face of the office across Milwaukee County. We have seen law enforcement has had some difficult years. We saw the killing of George Floyd, and we saw protests against police brutality. How will you be a bridge between the community and law enforcement here in Milwaukee County if you're elected sheriff?
Well, I have the unique perspective being a black female with children and a husband who could very well be stopped. Also, I'm a law enforcement professional, and so I understand the challenges that we have. But it's my position, and will be my job, to make sure that those within my organization are well trained, but also that the community see us as a partner in fighting crime and not an obstacle to fighting crime. I have worked collaboratively with community groups in the past, and will continue to work with them to show the human side. Our public affairs and community engagement unit, they're always doing things within the community to show the human side of law enforcement, but also there's a need out there. They want to give back, and so we will continue to do that. I continue to be the face of the organization, and I'll lead by example.
And let's talk about that experience that you bring, that face that you're bringing to the role. How long have you been in the office, and give us a little bit of taste of your background?
Sure. I have been the chief deputy for the last 3.5 years. I was fortunate that under when Sheriff Lucas was elected, he tapped me to be his chief deputy. So I run the day-to-day operations of the agency. But prior to that, I was in charge of Bryan and Stratton College's criminal justice program for its 3 campuses. And even before that, I amassed a distinguished career in law enforcement with the Milwaukee Police Department. I retired after 25.5 years. I had risen to the rank of deputy inspector, which is now an inspector. I've gone to several leadership training courses that was sponsored by the FBI, Department of Homeland Security, International Association of Chiefs of Police, as well as others. I have my bachelor's degree in criminal justice. I have my master's degree in criminal justice administration, and I have my PhD in educational leadership. And I have been to some of the highest positions within law enforcement, and it has made me uniquely qualified to assume the position if I'm elected as sheriff.
And as sheriff, what would you say your vision is? I've asked a bunch of questions about the jail and other issues, but if there's something here where I didn't ask you, your role as sheriff, what would be your vision for the sheriff's, one of the topics I haven't asked you about today?
My vision for the sheriff's office is that we have a stronger, safer community, and we do that collectively, working with our 19 municipalities as well as the community groups and the law enforcement groups, whether it's local, whether it's federal. We just need to, and I believe that we all want the same thing, which is to make the county safer. And so as a result, that is my vision, and with us working together, we will fulfill that.
We started with crime. I want to end with reckless driving. You'll be overseeing the interstate. Your deputies will be navigating that touchy issue. Do you have any ideas, any suggestions that you would have as the sheriff for how to deal with reckless driving on the highways?
Well, I've been working with the Sherman Park Safe Driving Coalition for over a year, and I do support what they are doing, or I should say what we're doing, as it relates to education, engineering, and enforcement. But I just want to make sure that when people are driving on our roadways, that they're safe. And so the more people, the more deputies that we have out there having that visible presence, it will deter a lot of things that are occurring on the roadways. I believe a lot of the crime is a crime of opportunity. And so if we don't give them the opportunity because they see us all over the place, then I think that's going to help to deter crime.
Chief Deputy Ball, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything I didn't ask you that you wanted to mention? I think we covered all the bases for a minute 30. Yeah, I think we're all set. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Good.